Welcome back, friends. Hope you're doing well today. For our postscript, I thought I would begin by talking just a little bit about the difficult passage from which I preached this last Sunday. And technically, I included both passages, Hebrew scriptures as well as the Christian scriptures, and yet there is something about that nugget from Matthew where Jesus says, "Behold my family, whoever does the will of God is my family." In contrast to the assumption that he would have participated in the kind of tiered system that we still participate in, where you have your family of origin. Typically, when we say family, we refer to parents, siblings, maybe we have children, things of that nature, and then we kind of go out from there. But Jesus makes a very strong statement, let us say, a kind of expansion that might have left his immediate family feeling discarded. I don't think that was the intent. And of course, I'm reading into the text. We don't know how they felt because it doesn't tell us how they felt, but we do know that they came to get him, which means they weren't entirely pleased with some of the commotion that he was causing, I imagine. It means that they felt it was more important for him to come home, Nazareth presumably, than to continue doing what he was doing where he was doing it. So we can gather that Jesus has created enough conversation that word has gotten back to his family of origin, and out of fear maybe for him, if we want to be charitable in our read of this text, or fear for themselves and concern about what his work, what his teachings, what this movement could mean for their families, not only status, but security, safety, place in community. You see, when we act, we're always connected to countless others, and our actions will have consequences for those others. And so I want to be as charitable and understanding of his family of origin, of his immediate family as possible. And yet, the one we follow, Jesus of Nazareth, whom we as Christians refer to as the Christ, says, when he is asked to speak to his family, he says, "Behold, look, whoever does the will of God is family." Now, what is Jesus doing? What do we do when we begin to build our networks and we get to befriend people and build intimate relationships with people that are not part of our family of origin, perhaps no biological relation whatsoever? Now, I think that Jesus radically redefines our notion of family, because family in that time and place and in our own can be limiting, and it can keep us from doing what we really need to do. It can keep us from building bridges of solidarity with those to whom we are not biologically related. Our world, I think we would all admit, is in a very difficult place. In fact, specifically, the relationships that may have at one time existed or which we had taken for granted have been called into question in a very dramatic way over the last couple of years, and perhaps even before that, but certainly over the last year or two. I think a window into what Jesus is doing can give us a sense of hope and a sense of even joy and enthusiasm about the idea of expanding our own definitions of family. Not only because it means that we have connections and relationships in many places, but the world needs us to build out our notion of family. Like, we need to be more united at this point in time so that we can counter some of the hyper-partisan, divisive, even violent rhetoric and policy and action that are coming out from places in power. So we as church have always referred to ourselves as a family of faith or a church family. I think we need to maybe reconsider if we've thought of that only kind of metaphorically or sentimentally, that there may be some real groundbreaking truth there, that those of us that choose to make this our church home are becoming and entering into a family of faith. A family which means that your pain, your suffering, your difficulties become my own. I do think that exists here at First St. Andrews in large part. There's room for us to grow. And like any family, of course, we're not perfect. There is no such thing as a perfect family. But I do believe Jesus gives us an opportunity to see how we can build bridges, how we can withstand some of the death dealing and violence inciting rhetoric and pontification that comes from places of power. Too often, I think we live in these social spheres, our little circles, and we don't even realize we're doing it, but it's natural to want to do that. This last Sunday, I talked about how it's natural to want to care for those that are really close to you, but it's a different thing altogether when somebody that you don't know comes and maybe is in need or wants to participate more fully in your liturgical life, in your worship life, in your outreach life as part of this church family. What does that mean, and how will that change us? These are all questions for us to consider as we move forward, because as we are all aware, the United Church now does not look like the United Church in 1925 or 1975 for that matter. In fact, if we want to be honest, the United Church in 2026 is going to look a little different than the United Church in 2025. Things are changing at a rapid pace. And while we don't have to jump on every wagon, we can fully embrace the newness and the alternative perspectives that are coming into our space and shared with us by people that don't have a Scottish or Saxon cultural background or Dutch. We can appreciate and embrace what they share and what they have to offer as a part of this beautiful tapestry that we're creating at First St. Andrews United. I do believe that is the spirit in which Jesus intended that statement. And I believe it's something that we can take heart in and be encouraged by, because we're trying. And I do believe that is the future of the church. So here we are. What you will do with it, I can't know for sure, but I encourage you to consider it and to be excited about the idea of growing our family. Thanks for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you next week.